Hi, my name is Jeff and welcome back to my workshop. We're continuing work on the DPM stone bakery kit. We're going to do some detailing on the walls, including adding some signage. I've got a couple of large signs here that were included with the kit. These are dry transfers. And I also have some smaller signs. These are paper cut signs left over from a previous project. So the paper signs, to get them to look right, I sanded them thin, sanded the back of the paper so that it thinned it down so that when we glue it in, it'll snug to the wall. The dry transfers will do that naturally so that they appear like they were painted on the models. So we're going to start with the dry transfers. And get those into place. Now I've laid them out the way I want them here or close to it. So to do the dry transfers, I'm going to use this is a piece of dowel rod that I've sharpened in a pencil sharpener and sanded the tip smooth. And I'm using that to burnish the sign down. And you notice that I missed the edge there. You got to be careful that, and it tore the decal a little bit as we look. We can see that, but we can slide it back into place. With some care. Get it back into place and then burnish it down so it adheres. Once that's down, then we can remove the backing paper. And per the kit's instructions, they suggest then taking the backing sheet that came with the dry transfers, putting it over and burnishing it again to seal everything down. And this helps feed it down into the cracks of the mortar lines of the brick so that it looks like it was painted on the sign. On the wall, rather. Anything that's loose, I'm just pushing it down a little bit with the pushing it down a little bit with the burnishing sticks. For the paper signs, I'm going to glue those on using Eileen's tacky glue. And I'm just working on a paper towel and just brushing some glue onto the back of the sign. And then I can take the sign with my tweezers and just place it exactly where I want it. And press it down into place. And then this also will get burnished in, but I'll use a toothpick, which gives me a little bit finer control to get it down into the crevices of the wall. Also, if it looks a little crooked while the glue is still tacky, now's the time to make those adjustments. You just want to be careful so you don't tear the sign. But if you do have a little bit of tear out on the edges, that's okay because it'll look like it just wore off. The paint's worn off. And while it's hard to see on the video, by using the toothpick and rubbing it along the edges, I can get the sign to snug down into the mortar lines. I'm going in both directions so I catch both the vertical and the horizontal lines of the bricks. with that done, we'll finish up the signs. Okay, and the last thing I did with the signs was I took some of the base paint color and I just sponged it lightly over it to look like it was fading out. Now this is the window sheet, and the side window, you can see it doesn't quite fit. The measurement is a little off from the molding. So we're going to cut these out, and then I'll split these in two and glue them on separately. But this clear glass material, clear plastic material that they includes some printing on them for blinds, so we can have some blinds in the upstairs windows. There's also a clear sheet of clear plastic that's used for the storefront area on the front of the building. So to cut out the windows, I just scored a few times with my hobby knife. And again, you want to make sure you're using a nice sharp new blade. And then you can just snap it off. So a score and snap method works really well with this. And then I do the same thing in the center to separate these two out. This was the only spot on the model where I had to actually separate the windows from what was printed. Everything else was measured out perfectly, so I could cut one piece for the wall and install it. The only other place where individual windows had to be cut out was in the bay window on the front. And that's just because of the bends in the window. So to glue it in, I am using canopy glue. This is Evergreen brand, but any canopy glue will work. And the advantage of that is that it dries clear, so even if there's a little spill out onto the window, it's not noticeable. And then just putting a thin layer around the edge of the window and on the center mullion. And a tip I picked up, I think on Jason Jensen trains, is he dabs his finger into the glue a little bit to make it a little tackier, so that when I apply my glazing, it sticks and holds in place right away, and I don't have to worry about the window shifting while I'm waiting for the glue to set completely. So just line the window glazing up so the Venetian blind is in the blind's in the top of the window. Press it into place and turn over, and I can see the blind lines up nicely in there. Now we'll install the second one the same way, and then do the same thing on the rest of the windows. With these two installed, just to help the glue cure, I'm just going to put a weight on them to hold the glazing down. And then on the back window, you can see there's a 6-window panel, and it actually lines up nicely with those. So we can cut out the whole panel and glue that into place. And just a piece of the clear from extra will be used for the door. With the windows installed, then I needed to install the second halves of the chimneys on the back of the windows. So I just glued those in using solvent cement, but first you need to remove them from the sprue. And flush cutting sprue nippers did a great job of this. But it is a kind of a thick tab on there. So I did find I needed to use a hobby knife to kind of clean it up, along with a sanding stick to sand it smooth. And it's really, I did that out of best practice because the bottom of the chimney is actually hidden under the roof of the building, so it's not going to be seen, but it's just habit of me to clean up those joints when I do a model. And to glue them on, I'm using the Fowler's solvent cement. You've seen me use this in other videos. I like this because it actually has a little bit of styrene dissolved in the cement, so that helps kind of fill gaps in there. And with the needle point applicator, I can get the cement exactly where I need it. And in this case, I just put some on the back of the chimney half I'm adding and glued it in. For the storefront, I added some signage to the windows. These were included in the kits with dry transfer and just put it on. For the roof of the bay window, I've got some Bar Mills shingle material left over from the Waukegan Station kit project. I'll put a link to that project, to the playlist for that, in the description. You can see in more detail how I did the roofing in that series of videos. But I just glued it on, and then I took a piece of shingle material and put it in place, bent it around the edge, and then I'll trim it off once it dries. Just sharp hobby knife to cut through the material along the joint. And you can see I didn't quite wait long enough, and so some of these shifted a little bit, so had to play them to get them in place. But once done, it came out looking pretty nice. I did add a little bit of my India ink alcohol wash to it to just kind of blend it all together. And that's the front of the building. See you next time when we start assembling the walls. Thank you, and enjoy your day.